The High Council of the Zarnathi Empire gathered beneath the towering crystal dome of Catalun, their capital world. Dozens of eyes glittered with unease. The reports had spread fast, far too fast. A patrol fleet had disappeared. Not crippled. Not damaged, erased. No distress call, no debris, simply gone. And the last transmission haunted even the most ancient among them. "It's not one of ours," the Admiral's voice had cried, strained with panic. "By the stars, humans don't have ships like that. They can't." Then silence. That message now played on endless repeat across every channel, accursed. Refrain none could banish. High Chancellor Varkaloon twisted his tendrils in agitation. "There is no record," he hissed at the chamber, "of Earth possessing such technology. Their last known warship was a crude ion warp fusion relic. We tracked them. They are centuries behind," corrected Lord Chadrex, his scales paling. "Their fleets never reached beyond mid-range systems. Their economy still ran on combustion engines. Then what in the 9 nebulas did we face out there?" rasped another counselor. That was the question gnawing at every soul present. Because one fact stood unchallenged. Whatever it was, it shredded a fully armed Imperial fleet. As though it were paper. Captain Rhea Morgan gripped the command rail aboard the Ghostlight, Earth's most secret vessel. Her knuckles tightened, gaze locked on the whirl of stars folding around the ship's stealth cocoon like liquid. They were buried deep in Zarnathi territory, and not a single system had the faintest clue. "Status?" she asked, voice low. "No sensor ping from the Empire," reported Lieutenant Vargas from Ops. "Cloak stable. Energy fully masked. We're still shadows." The Ghostlight was the pinnacle of human desperation, a final gamble built in the hidden corners of Earth's rising fear. For ages, the aliens barely noticed humanity, until they realized just how fast Earth was learning. The Empire's sudden embargo on Terran tech wasn't just trade, it was fear. They didn't want humans catching up. They never understood humanity already had. The ship itself wasn't colossal. It didn't need to be. Its skin was layered in photonic crystal, bending light, swallowing heat. Its drive thrummed on a quantum-entangled gravity loop, a Terran discovery so absurd even its creators weren't sure why it worked, only that it did. In trials, it let Ghostlight leap like nothing else alive. Here one instant, 10 light years away the next. No trail, no wake. Just gone, and it carried weapons that should not exist. "They called us primitive," Rhea murmured, pacing across the bridge. "That bought us time. Time to build where they weren't watching. Time to get angry," Vargas muttered. The Ghostlight had just returned from its baptism. Mission: Shadow and Empire patrol near the Raiden Rift. Watch. Withdraw. But the patrol had locked on, demanded surrender. They fired first. Humanity answered with fury. The galaxy had never known nanite-forged rail slugs, plasma-threading lances, a wormhole compression charge that folded half the patrol into dark matter. Froth. Now whispers drifted through the Empire's border colonies, tales of a Terran ship that appeared from nowhere, struck like lightning, and vanished like mist. The Empire had crushed uprisings, broken millions of species, fought billions of battles. Yet this was different. For the first time, they didn't know what they faced. Worse still, they had no idea where humans had found such power. Back on Catalun, panic spread in silence among the highest circles. The Empire had ruled this quadrant for 3 millennia. No species had ever risen once subjugated. Earth had been a mockery, a footnote since first contact. Yet now, that same world had sent a vessel into their core systems unseen, and erased a fleet. What if that isn't their only ship?" asked a young counselor. The silence that followed weighed heavier than gravity, because none dared speak the next thought. What if the humans had a fleet like that? What if they'd been preparing all along? Rhea sat alone in her quarters. Lights dimmed to a faint amber haze. The hum of Ghostlight's quantum heart vibrated beneath her boots, steady as a storm on mute. She hardly slept now. Not since the mission. Not since she'd watched Zarnathi warships come undone. Not blasted, not scattered unwoven. A single strike, a single weapon. The compression charge had inverted gravity, folding ships inward like collapsing lungs. No fire, no debris, only silence. And yet, she didn't feel triumph. She felt hunted. The kind of hunted where you knew your enemy wasn't gone, just waiting. Her terminal buzzed faintly. A secure channel blinked open. The face that appeared was older, worn with gray at the temples and eyes that had stared into humanity's darkest corners. "Admiral Harlan by Captain Morgan," Bishop said quietly, face drawn. "We've got a problem." She leaned closer. "The patrol? They're calling it terrorism. Blaming a rogue civilization, not us." Her brows pinched. "Why bury it?" "Because they're afraid," Bishop replied. "If they admit the truth, they admit they've lost control. Their empire survives. On fear, on superiority." A knot tightened in Ria's chest. "Then they'll come hunting." "They already are," he said grimly. "Intercepted chatter on their long-range nets. They're reviving border reavers. Haven't seen action in centuries. Outlawed under every treaty. They wrote those treaties. Exactly. Do you think they care?" In the far reaches of Empire space, arrogance began rotting into dread. On Tarka Prime, a wealthy mining colony famed for loyalty, governors scrambled to harden defenses not against raiders, but something worse. Whispers slipped through docking bays like poison smoke. "The Terran ship can't be tracked." "My cousins." Fleet vanished. No signal. No wreckage. Maybe it's not even a ship. Maybe it's a weapon. Maybe it's not human. That last one spread fastest. The notion that humans once mocked for emotion and disorder had changed, evolved, into something alien. Something unpredictable. Aboard Ghostlight, tension thickened. Vargas looked up from ops. Movement near Vector Station. Zarnathi fleet. Detachment, 12 ships. Outdated but heavy. Ria nodded. "Course? Straight toward Earth's edge colonies. Not here to parley." She faced her crew. "Then it's time. We're not winning this war by hiding." Engineer Jiao, quiet and sharp, finally spoke. "You want to show them again?" Her nod was steady. No speeches, no warnings, just a reminder. She pressed her palm to the helm's pad. The ship thrummed alive beneath her touch. "Bring us to flank, full stealth, weapons hot." It was like watching gods at war. Ghostlight slipped into vector orbit like shadow made solid. The Zarnathi fleet barely had time to react before the first rail burst speared their lead cruiser. No sound, no warning. Just surgical annihilation. One by one, the ships blinked into nothing until a lone survivor remained, crippled, drifting. Ria opened a channel. A Zarnathi commander, blood trickling down his temple, gasped into the feed. What are you? You're not human." Her gaze was flat. "Oh, we're human," she said. "You just never looked close enough." Then she severed the link. On Catalun, chaos bloomed. Admiral Verthal slammed a claw into the war table. "This isn't rebellion. This is a ghost war, no diplomacy. No bodies, just strikes and vanishings." A young officer, voice shaking. "We can't find their shipyards. We can't trace their warp trails. They don't use mapped routes. We don't know how they're making this tech." Then the High Chancellor spoke, voice like whetstone. "What if they're not building them here?" Silence, the deepest fear. That humans hadn't merely advanced, that they had found something out there, something ancient, something forbidden. And it was teaching them, or worse, shaping them, into something the galaxy had never seen, beneath Earth's crust. In a facility that didn't exist, Dr. Naim Salvi flexed his neural sync gloves and studied the writhing hologram above his desk. Not Zarnathi. Not human, Other, geometry alive, shifting every second as if aware of being watched. He hadn't created it, he'd uncovered it. Years earlier, Earth's probes brushed the Andros Veil and found a cluster of dead stars circling nothing. Number. Well, no core, just absence. Then came the pulse. Every quantum receiver on Earth lit up simultaneously. A language? No, an instruction. Salvi built ghost light from it. They weren't supposed to. But there had been no warning, only an invitation. Admiral Bishop stood in the hidden shipyard's bay, watching two new vessels shimmer beneath stealth scaffolding. The air smelled of ozone and fear. The elevator hissed. Rhea stepped out, eyes darker, uniform sharp. You said they're escalating, she said. They just declared martial control over the Orion trade ring, Bishop replied. 3 billion civilians under boot. So they're clamping down before panic spreads. They're trying. But fear's already everywhere. Even their vassals question them. And Ghostlight? She asked. It proved what it needed to, Bishop said. It made the point. Rhea's gaze hardened. Then give me the new ones, Bishop frowned. They're untested. Her smirk was cold. So was Ghostlight. He chuckled without mirth. Do you realize what you've become to them? What's that? A myth. A weapon that thinks. You're their nightmare, Rhea. She said nothing. She didn't need to. That had been the plan. In Zarnathi space, the Empire's grip frayed faster than it would admit. Border systems went dark not from war, but fear. Trade hubs emptied, colonies fled, garrisons fractured. And stories spread in the void. A Terran ship that moved like thought. A captain who spoke once before vanishing. A weapon that defied physics. In Lure's 5 archives, historian Zelter combed forgotten logs. He wasn't military. He hated conquest. But something gnawed at him. Humans were advanced. Protocol. It was time to escalate, not with destruction, but with proof. If humanity could strike fear, they could also inspire. In the colonies near the rim, something beautiful and dangerous began to grow. A multi-species rebellion. Zarnathi dissident. Reptilian slaves from the drone mines. The aquatic Kelith from the drowned cities. All of them united not under a flag, but a sentence. You were wrong about us. They had seen the Terran ships, not just Ghostlight or Oblivion Crown. There were more now, smaller, faster, leaking Jinto every corner of the Empire's hold. Sometimes they attacked, sometimes they only watched, but they were always there. And their silence screamed louder than the Empire's banners. On board Oblivion Crown, Rhea received a private techemy himself. No face, just his voice. The Cub's map just expanded, hesed, excitement barely restrained. There are more sites scattered across the galaxy, some in Empire space. She leaned forward. What kind of sites? Like the one we found in Thevile. Dormant, locked, waiting. Her fingers curled into fists. If the Empire found them first. Send coordinates to Bishop, she said. We move tonight. And if they try to stop us, Rhea's voice was calm, then they'll see the part of us they really should have feared. The planet's name had been forgotten by the galaxy, scrubbed clean from maps and archives. The Empire called it Sector W9, just a number behind a warning beacon and a do not approach tag burned into official records. But buried beneath its volcanic surface was something older than Zarnathi history itself. And now humanity was here to claim it. Oblivion Crown dropped out of fold space in total silence. No ripple, no trace. It hovered in low orbit like a phantom. Scanning the mountain range bellow for the buried signal Salvi had traced from the cube's latest pulse. Got it, Jiao announced, ice-wide. Trillip pulse buried under 300 meters of obsidian. Same frequency as the Veil cube, almost calling to us. Landing team, gear up, Rhea ordered. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. No wasted motion, no doubt. They knew what this mission was. Not just exploration, validation. If the Empire found the site first, they'd destroy it. Bury the evidence like they'd done before. But if humanity reached it, the galaxy would know the truth. The Terran hadn't stolen power. They were theriteful. Heirs. Down on the surface, the air was acidic, thick with ash. Their suits filtered most of it, but it still clung to their skin like guilt. They caked down into a canyon split wide by ancient seismic upheaval, flashlights flickering against jagged walls, and then they saw it. A doorway etched into the rock like it had always been there. Not Zarnathi, not human, older. The markings glowed. Faintly as Rhea approached, her hand brushing against one. The door didn't open. It recognized her with a soft vibration that hummed through the solace of their boots. The wall melted backward like liquid glass, revealing a tunnel off black stone, laced with silver veins. Inside was silence, not the absence of sound, the presence of something watching. On Catalun, alarms screamed through the central command towers. The Empire had picked up a subspace pulse, an echo originating from Sector W09. They knew what it meant. Someone had activated the tomb. Admiral Verthal cursed under his breath. Send a fleet. Immediate launch. Nothing in or out. Lord Shadrach's narrowed. His eyes. If the humans open it, we won't be able to denyet anymore. They won't live long enough to tell anyone. Verthal grove. But in his gut, he knew. It was already too late. Inside the ruin, fear grew warmer, charged. Salvi's voice came through the coms, whispering in awe. It's an archive, he breathed. Look at the walls. They're alive. Rhea turned slowly, staring at the-flowing patterns etched into the stone. They moved like rivers, spiraling and shifting in perfect sequence, like language, like memory. In the chamber center stood a pedestal, and hovering just above it, a cube, not identical to the first. This one shimmered gold instead of blue, but the design wasn't mistaken. Jiao stepped forward, carefully raising the containment field. Wait, Rhea said softly. The moment she spoke, the cube pulsed. And then her neurocomms lit up with a flood of data. Not words, not images, feelings, fear, survival, rage, hope. And then a question echoing deep in her brain like it came from inside her own thoughts. Are you ready to finish what we started? She stepped closer, heart pounding. We don't even know what that is. The response came instantly. Then you are ready. The cube sank into her hand like light wrapping around bone. The ruin shook. The walls blazed with light. They hadn't just found technology. They had triggered a wake-up call. In orbit. Oblivion Crown detected incoming threats. 12 Zarnath destroyers merging from fold space in tight formation. They're here, Vargas said, fingers flying across controls. Engines hot, shields charging. Time to go loud, Rhea replied, emerging onto the bridge in her exosuit, the golden cube tucked under her arm. Her voice was steady, her eyes gleaming with something new, something old. Vargas blinked. Are you glowing? She just smiled. Target lit. Fire the arc array. Ghost light had been a scalpel. Oblivion Crown was a sledgehammer. The first beam carved a hole straight through 2 cruisers before. They had time to blink. The Zarnathi formation scattered, scrambling to adapt. But Rhea was already ahead. She moved the ship like she was thinking through it, like it was part of her. Zhao looked up from the systems panel, eyes wide. The cube? It's sinking with the ship. No, she said, her voice distant. The ship's sinking with me. From his command chair back on Earth, Admiral Bishop watched the live feed. He saw the ships vanish under Oblivion Crown's fire. Saw Rhea move like a god among stars. Saw the second cube pulsing in her hand. Then Thecum feed lit up again from Salvi. Sir, he said breathless. I was wrong. There aren't a few sites. Bishop leaned forward. How many? Salvi swallowed. Dozens. No hundreds, all across the galaxy, buried, sleeping. And no, they're waking up. News spread like plasma fire across the stars. Silent, fast, and impossible to contain. Entire star systems picked up subspace wave emitted from the second cube. A resonance not just felt by sensors, but heard in the mind's Ophanion near it. A kind of psychic chord that stirred something primal in the oldest species. Not fear, not awe, recognition. The galaxy began to realize the horrifying truth. The Empire hadn't built civilization. They were squatting in the ruins of something much older. And now that something was waking up again, and the ones awakening it were human. On Catalune, the Empire's panic mutated into paranoia. Every ambassador, every counselor, every loyalist vassal interrogated. Loyalty screenings were conducted with invasive psionic probes. Dozens were executed on suspicion of Terran influence, though not a single one had ever seen Earth. It didn't matter. The Zarnathi, High Command, no longer cared about truth. They cared about control, but they couldn't stop the whispers. Not anymore. Because now even their own people had started asking the forbidden question. What if the humans were chosen? Rhea sat in the common chair of Oblivion Crown, the cube glowing gently beside her. She hadn't slept in 2 days, didn't need to. Since touching the artifact, her mind was focused. Her thoughts moved faster. Her memory burned brighter. Her dreams no longer hers. She'd started seeing things. Visions that didn't belong to her. Cities carved from living metal. Machines with skin. Stars being birthed, manipulated, designed. Not dreams, memories. Not just from Thecube, from the makers. They weren't just engineers. They were architects of reality. And they had vanished. Not because of war, but because they had passed on a legacy, a dangerous one, ageist. And now Rhea could feel it. She was the key. In the Draughten Wastes, a slave species long assumed Doxel began rising. Quietly at first, shipyard workers refused to load Zarnathi carriers. Pilots rerouted shipments to unknown locations. And then on the mining Moon V6, an entire garrison surrendered to a rumor. They say she walks between light. One soldier whispered. She moves like the wind, strikes like the dark. She's not just human. She's what comes after. And everywhere the rebellion bloomed, the same message was painted Inash, carved into metal, etched in blood. You were wrong, Abutis. Dr. Niam Salvi stood before a massive hollow map inside the Earthside Maker archive, staring at the sheer scale of the cube network. 211 sites confirmed, he told Bishop through a secure link. 29 already showing signs of activation. It's cascading. We triggered something far bigger than just knowledge. Bishop leaned in. Explain these cubes. They're like keys, but not for weapons. Then for what? Salvi turned. For evolution. There was a pause. You're saying the makers weren't just teaching us tech? No, Salvi said. They were preparing us to replace them. On board Oblivion Crown, alarms lit up. Fold breach. Rear quadrant, Vargas shouted. Zarnathi interceptor fleet, 25 ships. All advanced stealth grade. They're not running this time, Yao muttered. They're here to finish it. Rhea stood, her hand resting on the cube. Shouldn't reach for weapons. Instead, she opened a channel to everyone, Empire, allies, rebels, and unaligned systems alike. The screen crackled, then lit up with her face, calm, human, glowing with a subtle light from within. My name is Captain Rhea Morgan, she said. I pilot the Oblivion Crown. I serve no empire, no throne, no ancient war. She paused, letting her voice settle like thunder. I serve the future. The cube pulsed, sending ripples across every ship in the system. You feared us because we were unpredictable, chaotic, fast. But that's why the makers chose us. Because we grow, because we adapt, because we don't stop. Zarnathi ships hesitated, weapons held unsure. And if you try to eras, the designs, the DNA alignments, the neural resonance in Rhea, she's not just syncing with the cube. The cube is syncing with her. He stepped back from the hollow map, hands shaking. The makers didn't disappear. They became cameos. On a dead world, the edge of the Andromeda breach, a storm of ash swept across a blackened city made of metal and bone. And beneath it, something stirred. A construct buried deep inside the planet's core, activated for the first time in 10,000 years. Its heart glowed with the same golden light now carried by the Terran ships. It began to hum. The melody carried into space, reaching out across the void like a call home. Rhea stood inside the maker chamber, this time on a new world. Aurelia, once considered barren, now revealed to be a vault. The chamber reacted before she even spoke. Walls split open like petals. Holograms bloomed into patterns, languages layered upon languages, and in the center, a final message appeared. Not from the cubes, not from the past, but from herself. A mirrored projection, her own face, but older, stronger, colder, and it said only 3 words, "You were warned." The cube in her hand pulsed violently. Zhao flinched. "Rhea, what the hell is that?" She stared into the hologram, and the truth hit her like a warship. "These weren't just gifts," she whispered. "These were tests." She looked around the chamber, the shifting walls, the glowing pillars. Not every civilization passed. Far away, in the heart of Zarnathi space, their last gambit was unfolding. A hidden vault sealed, even from their own commanders, was being unearthed. Project Dreadmother, a weapon built in secret, designed after the Empire first discovered fragments of Maker Tech Longago. They'd failed to replicate it. But they twisted it, engineered it into something unstable, something horrifying. And now, in a final act of desperation, they would unleash it. "They think they're the Makers reborn," Veril hissed. "Then let them meet what we made in their image." Behind layers of plasma shields and fail-safes, something screamed awake. Half machine, half maker, all rage, the stars were too quiet. From the edge of the Andrus Veil to the burning grims of Calther Prime, ships stood still. Empire, rebel Terran. Not firing, not retreating, just watching. Because something new had entered the void. Something wrong. Dreadmother. A creation that never should have existed. Not built, but cobbled together from stolen maker fragments and Zarnathi ambition, merged with organic material, bred in a tank of fear. It wasn't a ship. It was a being. Its hull Wazaliv, stretched over bone and steel, twitching with electrical spasms. Weapons grew from it like tumors, pulsing, leaking radiation. It had no bridge, no crew. It was the crew, and it had one purpose. Eradicate anything that bore the spark of the Makers. Inside Oblivion Crown, Rhea stood at the incoming mass on the sensor array, her chest tight. "It's not just big," Jiao whispered. "It's loud." The sound wasn't noise. It was pressure. It vibrated inside their skulls, scraping against their thoughts. Like claws Onglis. "Biometric scans off the charts," Vargas added. "It's broadcasting hate like it's a damn war chant." And then it spoke. Not in words, in memory. 1,000 screams. 1,000 species wiped out in Empire conquests. Executions, chemical cleansing, entire moons glassed and forgotten. It fed on pain. It was born of pain. And it wanted to end them, all of them. Back on Earth, Salvi's team watched as the Maker lattice began to shudder. The cubes across the galaxy pulsed erratically, like they were in distress. "It's disrupting the network," Salvi said, voice rising. Like a virus, a false echo, Bishop leaned over the console. "Can we stop it?" Salvi hesitated. Number she might. Rhea opened at the cube in her hand, not physically, mentally. She reached into it like it was an extension of herself, and the cube reached back. The chamber around her flickered, then collapsed into light. She stood alone, suspended in nothing. No ship, no suit, just stars and silence. Then another figure appeared. Her reflection again, but clearer now, older, wiser, not just a version of Rhea. The first Rhea, the original, the one who had failed. I see you've come further than I did, the reflection said. But this is where we always fall. No, Rhea said quietly. Not this time. You think you're different? I'm not here to be different, she said. I'm here to finish it. The reflection smiled and vanished. And Rhea woke up, eyes glowing, pulse steady. She was ready. Dreadmother fired first. A blast of pure entropy ripped toward Oblivion Crown like addital wave of death, curving space behind it. Any normal ship would have been torn apart, atoms undone. But Rhea was the ship now. She moved with thought. The blast missed. Then she struck back, not with cannons, with resonance. The maker lattice behind her shimmered. Every cube, every ruin, every site connected to her pulse. They began to hum in unison. A single note, soft and pure, swept through the system like a siren's cry. The Zarnathi fled first, then their bells. Only Oblivion Crown and the Dreadmother remained. Gods locked in orbit, the crown's wings unfolded, light flowing from every fractal ridge. Andrea whispered to the stars, I am not your mistake. I am Yarecho. The final strike didn't look like fire. It looked like stillness. Oblivion Crown folded into the Dreadmother's shadow, piercing its core, not to destroy, but tore right. The Maker code flooded through it like a soul forced into a body that didn't want it, and the Dreadmother screamed. Rage twisted into agony, agony into clarity. For a brief moment, it saw itself. What it was, what they'd done to it. And in that instant, it chose a mething it had never known. Peace. Then it shattered into dust and stardust. Atoms blooming like a nova. Silence returned. The Empire's last weapon gone. Its fleet scattered. Its citizens no longer afraid of the shadows. And across the galaxy, new symbols began to rise. Not flags, not borders, but cubes lit in blue and gold. And at the center of them all, in the heart of the Maker lattice, stood Rhea, human more. A final message was sent to every species, every system. Encrypted not in code, but in emotion, in resonance. It needed no translation. We were never lesser. We were never late. We were always becoming. You were wrong about us. But now you have a choice. Stand with us or be left by end. In the dark halls of the broken empire, someone whispered, they weren't supposed to win, and someone else replied, they didn't win. They became.